Okay, so we want to have some gems for us to actually use in our game, because at the moment this board is pretty boring. We don't really want to just have this in place here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my assets. I'm going to grab one of our gems here. Let's just grab this blue one. And I'm going to rename this to be gem blue. And what I'm going to do is add a script to this. So I'm going to go down here and create a C# script that we're going to call gem. Just nice and simple. Let that compile. And if I go up here, I've got my gem. I'm going to move this right into the middle here for the moment, and I want to test one thing out. If I press play, okay, it's not quite happening. So something that we have no control over if we don't make we're going to make a little change to our gem here in a second. But at the moment, our board and our gem, if I try and move this around, will it go behind any of these? Okay, so this is something you can't necessarily get Unity to do by itself. It's just something that will randomly happen. But our gem here, at the moment, it's appearing in front of all these grid objects that we have. But there's nothing in Unity to tell it to do that. It has just decided that that's how it should be right now. But equally, Unity could completely decide, oh, this gem should just be behind all these other blocks. And then, of course, you wouldn't be able to see any of the gems that you spawn in on your grid. So we don't want that. So what we want to do is we need to tell Unity exactly where these should be. And to do that, with our gem selected, if you go to the sprite renderer, you can see here we have our sorting layers. So I'm going to add a new sorting layer here. So we have default. I'm going to add some sorting layers. I'm going to add a few in here. We'll add, first of all, a background sorting layer. Then we're going to add another one for gem. And we'll add another one for effect as well. And that one we'll return to a little bit later. But for now, we've got BG, gem, and effect. And I'm going to grab the BG one and put it behind default. So background stuff should obviously be at the very back. And the way the layers work here in Unity is anything at the top here will be furthest away from you. And anything at the bottom is closer to you. So if you imagine the bottom of your screen is closer to your body than the top of your screen, then that's a kind of a quick way to remember in your head, oh, the bottom is closer to me and the top is further away. So they should be further away in our view here. So with that done then, let's go back to our gem and we need to tell it your gem should be on the gem layer. And if I go to my prefabs and go to my tile background, I want this one to be on the background layer. So now if I play, you can see that will, again, it'll still look the exact same here, but you might not be having that in your own project file. What could be happening and how we can just demonstrate this is if my gem was on the background layer, let's see, will this work this time? No. But if I set it to -1, this is the equivalent of what could happen. You can see the gem will be hidden behind the board. And I can kind of see a bit in the scene view here, but it's very hard to see in our game view down here. Okay, so we obviously don't want that. Let's go back to our gem, put that at 0. So now we have that being a little bit more obvious. Now we need to make this a prefab. So let's go to our prefabs folder. We're going to create a folder here for gems. And then in here, we're going to pop the blue gem in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create duplicates of this. So I'm going to create 4 duplicates, and I'm going to go back to my gems in the art folder, and then for each one let's actually move them out so we can see them all, so we can see that they're being we're going to make sure that they all look a little bit different. Okay, so for this one we're going to grab this green image and we're going to call this gem green. We're just going to go down this little list here for each one. So we'll call this gem purple. Then of course this one will be red, so we'll name it red. And then finally we'll have the yellow. Oop, there we go, drag the yellow and call this yellow. So now we've got 5 different gems. And we obviously need to have prefabs of all of these for us to be able to use them. But we don't want to create completely unique prefabs because our gems are all pretty much going to be the same. They're going to do roughly the same stuff the whole time. So we're actually going to make sure that these other ones become what are called prefab variants. So if I grab this green one and just drag it in here. I've got a question and I can say I want to make this a prefab variant. So we'll do the same with these other ones. We're going to make them all prefab variants. And what this means is, much like when you saw that you could drag a bunch of prefabs into a scene and make a change to the original prefab and it will apply to the others, the same thing is true with variants. So variants, for example, if I go to my original one, my blue here, I could change the sorting layer of this to be background, and now that would carry over to all the other variants. But if I take one of these variants and say change it to gem again, that individual one, that will affect the copy of red I have out here. You can see that's back to being gem, but all these still remain BG and all these other variants and stuff remain BG, because this isn't a root, this isn't an original prefab basically. So slightly confusing it can be, but it is very, very straightforward really. I'm going to revert that change. So if I right click on anything you change, you can revert it. And I'm going to go to my blue gem then, because that was a change I made based off the original prefab of blue. So I want to go here and I'm going to change this back to gem, because obviously we want them to all be on the gem there. Okay, so we've got all those in place and they've all got their gem script, which at the moment doesn't do anything, but it will as we go a little bit further. But for now, I'm just going to delete all those gems because we don't need them actually in our scene. And then the next thing we're going to do is make it so that we can actually spawn them in on our board.